Well, we're here in the basement of the Jackson County Courthouse. We're going to enter into the vault that houses the County Clerk's historical records. A lot of people don't know, but we actually act as a historical society for all of the county records. So we're going to go ahead and walk on into this vault. As you can see, this is a very old vault door. These were established in this building, of course, upon construction of the annex area. There are some older vaults within the main part of the building, but this is the one in the basement that houses our historical documents. Nothing special about it, but it is secure and falls under standards, of course, to protect documents. So we're going to go ahead and go this way.
Are there a lot of other vaults down here as well?
There are. The old building actually houses quite a few vaults. What happened was back before courier services, when the taxes were taken in, or such things as the county sheriff's department actually was housed in this building. And of course they had weapons and things that they had to house and keep in a secure area. So this old building actually has quite a few old vaults that are in it. We happen to use this one just to house our historical documents, so it really serves its purpose well for at least the county clerk's office now. Okay, and as you can see, the vault's here, but we don't know the combination to it. So what we did is we had the guts taken out of it, but it still maintains a secure locking environment. So of course we want to keep that nature of that vault intact so that it protects those documents that are in there. We're just going to open this up, the big old heavy door, and we'll turn on the light. And here is our vault. Go on inside. So what we have here, quite a few old documents. Now, of course, we do have a contracted service that we do to house the majority of the records for the entirety of the county. But in here, what we do is this is specific to the county clerk's records. We try to keep in our vault things that are commonly pulled or used by our citizens. And so, of course, right here on these first shelves, these big old boxes here, we have lots of the old, and actually continuing on to the back shelves, the historic marriage documents that from original first marriage ever sold here in Jackson County in this box number 1. Not a real tough system. It just goes from box 1, the oldest, to the newest. And so those documents actually go back to the 1800s. And we actually have all the old medical certificates, because back then you actually had to provide a medical certificate. That ended sometime in the 1970s. But of course, we have all of the original records here, right in these boxes. So what's in here, again, it's not rocket science. We just take and we have everything done by volume and pages, and all the historic documents are here. I could go here and I can actually pull this document out. And of course on the front it's going to show the names of the parties with the marriage. This particular document was done July 5th of 1897. And these records are actually maintained very well. They're kept very well. And this is of course the marriage certificate of this particular couple.
Back in the 1890s.
1890s on this particular document.
How long do you have to keep this stuff? Is this stuff more for historical, or do you really still need to have these documents?
These are for historical use, and we get a lot of people in trying to do genealogical research. People just trying to look up old family members. They might hear of an old story and they want to see an original document. But the other thing we do get is, because we did issue the license, we can actually certify copies of these for folks to take to Social Security, to get a passport if they have to come up with documentation to show name changes or things of that nature that might happen. So we do actually use these documents quite a bit. Of course, the older they get, the more you don't. There are laws according to the Oregon Revised Statutes for archive and preservation. And the state archivist is very thorough in coming down about every 5 years to make sure that we are maintaining records. And of course, they have a list to find in our records that shows that we are maintaining these things and in a proper fashion. They were very happy to find out that we did have at least a vault for some of these records, because of course these are original documents. We further house a lot more at our contracted service, but of course here we want to make sure that the integrity of these documents are held. And at this point they're more of a historical document, so it's important to keep those. Behind us here, as you can see, it's a Plat cabinet, and these are historical Plat documents for Jackson County. Now, originally, of course, the county seat was in Jacksonville, and when the courthouse was built here, they moved everything from Jacksonville into Medford. So we've heard rumors through the years that when that move took place, that some documents were just laid out on the front lawn. People could take and keep what they wanted. Of course, that's just hearsay. But we also heard things such as there could have been fires or just people lost documents. But this is what we have maintained since that time. And as you can see, these are all done in order here. They're all maintained in these old sleeves, what we call them. And of course, I can pull one out here and I'll be able to show you. These were a lot of hand-done Plat items here. This particular Plat, you find a date on this, was actually done in 1909, and you can see this date here, March 3rd, 1909. And this is Orchard Home Company Plat. Probably right here in the city of Medford, I imagine.
And again, you're keeping these?
The statutes have not kept up a lot with technology. We have ways of preserving these digitally, which is kind of what our current project with the marriage documents were. But what happens is that the statutes have to follow the technology, and right now permanent preservation methods have not accepted digital as a permanent preservation through the statutes in Oregon. They're working on that though, and it looks like we're right on that verge, because I know the Secretary of State's office, Archives Division, has developed a program out there where we can get acceptable standards for permanent preservation. It really opened up a huge realm for us, especially at the county level, because right now we're producing microfilm that we can maintain in an off-site location, which would suffice the permanent preservation standards. Once we can go to digital, it will not only be more accessible, because we'll have those all right on our computer systems, but it'll also save the taxpayers a huge amount of money, because to produce microfilm is very, very costly. It doesn't get used a lot anymore. It's archaic technology. So bringing us into the digital future is going to save the citizens a huge amount of money once we can get that technology going, and it is an accepted practice for permanent preservation. And we're right there, it's gonna happen, and it is happening right now. So anyway, these are the oldest Plats we have here in Jackson County. And as you can see, looking down the line, we have quite a few of these Plat cabinets here that take you basically through the history. The Plat cabinets, we do them by year. Every time a new Plat is filed, we give it a number so that you can, of course, research and find those documents. And then we permanently maintain the original Plat right here. Here we have some old mortgage indexes. Now, mind you, these are just a few of them. We do have lots more out at our archives contract. I have, in particular, these we maintain, and because of their historical heritage behind them. And this here, you can see this volume. It's a record volume. It's a beautiful old leather-bound edition. This is volume 1 from 1861 to 1866. This is the oldest commissioner's journal that we have in Jackson County. It is actually a leather, like it's a beautiful leather bound. It's seeing some wear, of course, because it is over 100 and some odd years old. But inside, you can see it's going to have exhibits. Here's the date that it was. This entire book was microfilmed, so it has actually been put on microfilm. But within here, it's going to show you, here's the original entries, the July session, 1861 in Jacksonville, and the Board of Jackson County, State of Oregon, and it talks about they met in this day, and of course this is all of the notes that were taken during that session of the Board of Commissioners. So it's kind of neat. These are actually in very good condition for being as old as they are. They're all handwritten. And we do maintain these in here, along with all kinds of other records. So this was a particular interest because of the nature of its age. And once again, we're maintaining these for historical preservation for the county. Let's see, more marriage licenses, of course, because we've had over 100 years of marriage documents, so we do have the rest of those in here. We come back this way, and we are looking at, of course, some boxes of old liens. We occasionally will have to search. Back before computer systems, we had to do everything in paper format, so you really had to have access to those. We still, believe it or not, from even 20 years ago, have people trying to find old liens that are still, when they go to refinance their property, they show an old Jackson County warrant, or they might show a federal tax lien or a construction lien. Of course, all those documents have time frames where they can be released off the property. The person who's paid them off, the person who liened them have the obligation to release that lien, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So we do have to search these records periodically. So we keep these right on site because, again, when you use them a lot, we would have to actually pay to have them shipped back and forth to our other preservation office. So it helps having them right here for us. Keep in mind, these cabinets, this is another reason why digital storage is going to be so important for the future. This big green Plat cabinet over here, not including shipping, is about $8,000 to purchase one of those. And when we have to do that every so many years, it's very expensive for budgets, and of course that is taxpayer money. We want to be very mindful. We're trying to find ways to not only spend the taxpayer dollars more efficiently, but to be more efficient in our department also. These are coroner's inquests, and these are a very historic nature. As you can see, this box right here, box 2 of 2, inquest 1911 to 1930. Of course, these are coroner's inquest. The coroner acted almost as like an investigator does nowadays, or would be a forensics investigator. They would take, and when there was a scene of a unknown death or a questionable death, they would of course go to that scene and investigate to find out what happened. As your current sheriff, state police, you have all kinds of different departments that'll do that now, but back during this time, it was left up to a coroner to do that work. This box here is our oldest box, and in this box, just let you set that, just put it up. In this box, as you can see right here, they have habeas corpus, and they also have the coroner's inquest. The dates of these are 1859 to 1910. These read like Old West movie scripts. I pulled one in particular. I had a customer come in who'd heard stories on down their family lineage about a murder that had happened actually up on Wagner Creek Road in Talent. And that really spurred my interest because I grew up in Talent. And so we pulled the boxes, actually had these brought in, and looked through the actual document. And like I said, read like the Old West movie script. There had been a murder. It was a family scandal, and in the end, I believe it said in that document, it took the coroner 3 or 5 days to be able to get to that home to do this inquest. Because of course, back in that time frame, there were no such thing as cars, so they had to take the old horse and buggy, and when they could get up there, then do the investigation. And they're quite interesting. And these documents are seeing a little wear and tear, a little aging in them. I'll pull one out here. Okay. So this right here, it's going to have the coroner's inquest. It talks about the person who passed away, shows when it was filed, and then of course testimony of the witnesses. You open these up, this is where they've seen their age. They've been folded up so long that it's really hard to kind of get those all straightened out. As you can see, it's just it's an accounting of what we would do now on a computer, and it takes them through, as you can see, rather thick, of the whole scenario of what happened to this person and what caused their death. I've been very fortunate. I've kind of thumbed through some of these every once in a while, and you go through the different ages, and when there was a huge movement of settlers coming to the valley. Of course, a lot of their only way to get here was either by horse and buggy or by train, when the trains actually, when they got the railroads laid through. And there are quite a few in here of people that they would find a body that had been mutilated. They'd been riding a squatter on the train and had actually fallen off, and then of course not until they discovered that body. And it's unfortunate because those people actually were never known. You know, they never would find out who those people were, but I assume they were settlers trying to make a better life for themselves, to come to the West and possibly start a new family and create a life for themselves. So some of them are very sad in nature. It was also a point when cars came into place. There were some that I found in there that the husbands would be trying to get the old car started, and of course they'd have the wives go up and crank the car, and the brakes would be released and they'd run them over. So as you could see that the different eras of technology would actually portray a lot of these coroner's inquests. So kind of unique. It was it's kind of neat to be able to look through these and see the history of them.